My name is Emily. I'm currently 33 years old. I've been dating John for 6 years. Actually, I've asked him out as many as 5 times. And finally, I got an affirmative response from him. Currently, I'm busy preparing for our wedding. But every day feels so joyful that I often find myself humming happily. I'm really going to marry John. I was sitting in front of the prenuptial agreement, smiling uncontrollably, feeling over the moon. Hey John, is this prenuptial agreement really that important? While I was a bit skeptical, I still signed and stamped the prenuptial agreement. In fact, one of the conditions for John to accept my proposal was to sign a prenuptial agreement. This contract states things like each person's assets before marriage remain theirs. And in the future, in case of inheritance, we won't interfere with each other's inheritance rights. If a child is born or the situation changes, we can review and renegotiate the agreement. I understood the importance of what John was saying, but wondered why it had to be put in writing. When I asked, he vaguely answered, "Well, it's kind of like insurance, I guess." Although John's response was ambiguous, I didn't see it as a major issue. If I could marry John, I'd just go along without giving it much thought. However, an event would later unfold that would solve this mystery. John is the youngest of his 3 siblings, with 2 older brothers. I met his brothers at his family's home before the wedding. I'm not on bad terms with my brothers, but they're both a bit, they're not particularly bright, so don't take them too seriously. If you take them too seriously, they'll mess you around. John's rather blunt introduction of his brothers-in-law left me baffled, yet all I could do was nod. Surprisingly, even John's parents seemed just as perplexed as I was, but still nodded in agreement. However, after that, I didn't get any chances to talk to my brothers-in-law, especially after the wedding. So, John's frank advice had been pushed to the back of my mind. One day, the home phone rang unexpectedly. It was just before noon, and John was out because he had to work on his day off. "Hello, Hey, do you like fish?" When I picked up the receiver, the caller, without introducing himself, suddenly posed this question. I was quite taken aback. Huh? Who is this? I tried to recall who would call me M, but I couldn't figure out. Still, since they knew my home phone number, I assumed it wasn't a complete stranger. As I puzzled over this, I heard loud laughter from the other end of the phone. "What? You don't recognize me? It's me, John's older brother, Jason." Huh? Oh, you're Jason? I momentarily wondered if it was the eldest or the second eldest brother, but decided not to voice that question. "It's been a while. What's the occasion?" I'm coming back from fishing. Caught a lot of trout, but there's too many for me to eat. Though it'd be a waste. So I was thinking of bringing them over to your place. John likes them grilled with lots of vegetables, right?" Hearing this, my heart swelled with happiness. "Thank you so much. John is out for work today, but he would definitely be thrilled if there were some trout." After hanging up the phone, I immediately went to the refrigerator to check for ingredients. I do have onions, bell peppers, and carrots. It's great that I stocked up on them. Then, humming my favorite song, I finally chopped many vegetables. Right when I was done cutting the vegetables, Jason arrived and rang the doorbell. When I checked the intercom monitor, I realized it was John's second eldest brother. Recognizing him, I opened the door with a smile. However, as soon as I opened the door, "Hey, can I use your bathroom quickly? Also, could you cover the taxi fare for me? Sorry." Huh? What? Okay, got it. Following this, Jason rushed to the restroom, and as instructed, I went out to settle the cab fare. Phew, I made it in time. After I settled the taxi fare and came back, Jason emerged from the restaurant with a big sigh of relief and a broad smile. Thanks for that. And since you're already taking out your wallet, this might be a good time. What are you talking about? I stared at Jason's hand, utterly confused about what he was asking for. Seeing my puzzled expression, Jason continued. I mean the payment for the trout. Just $30 will do. I'm giving you a discount. Payment for the trout? I was so shocked that I almost dropped my wallet. It was partly my fault for not confirming beforehand. I had assumed he was just sharing them with us and hadn't thought it would cost anything. I wasn't expecting to get them entirely for free and had prepared some nice snacks as a token of appreciation. But $30 for trouts? Yet, Jason expected me to pay. Considering he mentioned bringing a generous amount of fish and not wanting things to be awkward, I reluctantly pulled out $30 from my wallet and handed it over to Jason. Thanks. So the trouts are inside the cooler box. Also, I'm leaving the fishing gear here. When John comes back, tell him to take them to our family home, okay? What? Wait, Jason? The entryway was littered with a cooler box and fishing gear. Even as I tried to figure out what to do with the scattered equipment, Jason didn't seem to care about my troubles and just left. Hey, wait a second. Due to all the fishing gear in the entrance, I couldn't easily get outside, and by the time I did, Jason was out of sight. What was he thinking? He never said he'd leave all this stuff. Our place isn't that spacious. It's just in a way. Oh, the taxi fare! I didn't get reimbursed. Amidst the chaos, I realized that I had not been reimbursed for the taxi fare I had covered for Jason. I stood there as I was upset, biting my lip. Now I have to ask John to take the fishing gear back to our family home and to get reimbursed for the taxi. This is going to be awkward to bring up to John. Then, something even more unbelievable happened. Huh? What is this? I decided to open the large cooler box that John's second eldest brother had left at the entrance. But instead of the expected bounty of trouts atop the overly packed ice, there were only a few fish, not even reaching 1 kilogram in total. No, this has to be a joke. I sank down dejectedly right at the entrance. What am I going to do? I've cut up so many vegetables already. While the real issue might not have been just about a fish, my bewilderment and sense of loss were so overwhelming that I couldn't find words to express them. Several months later, I was on my way to a cafe. Actually, I have something important to discuss. I want to keep this confidential from my brothers. I received such a message from John's eldest brother, Dave, in a serious tone. He mentioned that the matter would significantly impact John's future and strictly warned me not to tell our in-laws or John. Although I found the situation a bit suspicious, the cafe he had chosen wasn't unusual, and a meeting was set for the afternoon, so I decided to hear him out.
Hey, Emily, over there, right there.
As I walked into the cafe, my name was called out loudly. The volume was so unexpected that all the customers turned to look at me. Embarrassed, I quickly made my way to the table where Dave was seated, apologizing to the other patrons as I passed.
Emily, are you embarrassed? So cute.
Seeing me, he laughed out loud again. As I felt the attention from people in the cafe, I tried to quiet him down. Dave, could you keep your voice down a bit? As I whispered my request, he started speaking loudly again. It seemed he had something important to share.
Let me introduce her. She's my new girlfriend.
A tall, beautiful woman, who had been out of my line of sight, suddenly stood up. Just as I began to greet her, a girlfriend? Oh, hello. I felt a sharp slap across my face and saw stars. Ouch! What? In shock from the unexpected slap, I tried to understand why this woman, whom I had just met, would do such a thing. Before I could react, the woman angrily exclaimed, "Are you kidding me with this plain-looking girl with no redeeming qualities as your new girlfriend? I can't believe you! Know this, I dumped you, now the other way around." With those words and furious eyes, she stormed out of the cafe, her heels loudly echoing her departure. Wait, Dave? What was that about? Seriously, ouch. Trying to ask for an explanation, I winced from the pain in my cheek. Why on earth did this just happen to me? After being slapped, I was initially in shock, but as I began to think clearly, immense anger welled up inside me. Dave, you said there was an important matter concerning John's future, right? That's why I came. Despite this, the fact that he used me is just too cruel. Dave responded without any sign of remorse.
Sorry about that. I was falling out of love with her. Thanks to you, though, I finally broke up with her. Thanks for acting as my girlfriend on short notice. Let's calm down and chat. Don't be so mad. Okay, Emily.
Dave! Please don't call me Emily so casually. Seeing Dave's carefree demeanor further irritated me. However, Dave said,
Come on, don't be so mad. This happens all the time, right? You're overreacting.
This seemed to indicate he felt no guilt about dragging me into his breakup. What? Overreacting? This is the first time in my life I've been slapped by someone. So, no, I'm not overreacting. Telling me to calm down is unreasonable. My anger reached its peak, and I couldn't help but shout, "Stop messing around!" Reacting to my outburst, he said,
Wow, Emily, you're scarier than you look. Didn't see that coming. Look, the other customers are staring.
Many faces inside the cafe were looking in my direction, displaying a mix of curiosity, confusion, and annoyance. Oh no. Unable to withstand all the stares, I crouched down. Meanwhile, Dave walked past me, heading for the exit.
See ya, Emily. Give my regards to John.
Huh? Wait! Dave! Wait! As he nonchalantly left the cafe, leaving me behind, I tried to suppress my embarrassment and stood up. But then, an employee approached me with a concerned expression. I'm sorry, but could you please settle the bill? What? Huh? Me? Pay the bill? What? What? This has got to be a joke! I would have probably shouted out loud if there weren't people around. Following the incidents with Jason and then Dave, I came to dislike them so much that I never wanted to see them again. That's why I told John everything about what his brothers did and decided not to respond to their messages. If there were a need to communicate, it would be through John. However, the story is different when it comes to John's parents. John's parents cherish me greatly. More importantly, they are the parents of John, whom I love. So, when it was decided to celebrate their 60th birthdays, I couldn't refuse to attend.
Oh my! This place is much more spacious than I imagined. I'm surprised. What a lovely garden. Oh, is that an annex over there?
Yes, that's right. The main house is relatively new, but the annex was relocated from an old traditional house. It's about 230 years old.
Really? With attached roof and a porch? Oh, is the well still working? Emily, can I take some pictures later?
John's mother loves old buildings, and she was joyfully expressing her admiration. Seeing her so happy made me smile as well. Of course you can, Mr. Smith. John's parents, with his mother touching the main pillar and his father standing by her side, looked very pleased. The place they wished to hold their 60th birthday celebration was the old traditional house that I had inherited from my grandparents.
Actually, my wife and I met during an old building tour. We sat on the porch, drank tea, and realized we were the same age. We hit it off from there.
Yes, at some point in the past, John's father has shared the story of how he and John's mother met. I'm glad you both like it so much. I should have invited you sooner. I apologize for the lack of furnishings. I regretted not showing them the house a bit sooner. The house had been rented out when my grandparents moved into a nursing home and was used as a restaurant until the previous week. I agreed to let John's parents visit after the restaurant closed, but she felt she should have shown them the house when it was fully furnished.
Oh, Emily, don't worry about it. This is more than enough. And because there are no other guests, we can fully enjoy the serene atmosphere.
Indeed, John's parents had come much earlier than the scheduled party time. They took their time exploring the old house and even brought a bottle to enjoy tea on the porch. If it weren't for the surrounding noise, I would have probably shouted out loud. However, this quiet atmosphere was suddenly disrupted by loud footsteps and shouting.
Hey, is John the only one greeting guests? The place seems empty. Seriously. Is the meal catered to?
Instead of getting angry at Dave, who was rudely complaining, John calmly explained.
This is what Mom and Dad wanted. They're the main guests today, so please don't complain. And even though it's catered, it's a top-tier buffet from a popular restaurant.
John said this with his usual smile to his brothers.
Whatever you say, a catering is just still a catering. Why are you so cheap? It would have been better to rent the restaurant while it was still open. John, you're such a miser. Jason sighed while speaking. I wonder he realizes how much it would cost to rent out a high-end restaurant. What are you talking about? You were the one complaining about the price for today. Who's the real miser here? He still owes me money for small expenses and unresolved issues with his girlfriend. I have been taken advantage of by my brothers-in-law time and time again, and I couldn't hold back my feelings anymore. With that thought, I whispered back to them so they wouldn't hear. Nevertheless, at the 60th birthday celebration for my in-laws, there were smiles and laughter all around, and the family had a wonderful time. After dinner, when my in-laws left their seats to take a walk around, Dave suddenly spoke up.
Hey, I've come up with a great idea.
Seeing him starting to talk with such excitement, I felt a sense of unease inside. John glanced at me, sharing the same feeling of unease. As expected, after Dave whispered something to Jason, he also began to chuckle.
We're all relatives, right?
Confused by this, John tilted his head, to which Dave began to explain in haste.
Hey, this store is closed, right?
The store?
Yes, it closed last week.
After John answered, the brothers-in-law leaned in with great excitement.
Hey, you! You did well, huh? This is like hitting the jackpot, isn't it? Exactly. You got such a large piece of land and a magnificent house all to yourself. You're seriously lucky. What? What are you talking about? You guys are mistaken, aren't you?
However, the brothers-in-law ignored John's words and continued their conversation.
Don't you think it's a waste for you to have such a grand house all to yourself? Yeah, there's no problem if you share it a bit with us.
It felt as though they had found prey. Watching the brothers-in-law approach in such a manner made me uncomfortable. But soon, a good idea regarding how to deal with these brothers-in-law popped into my head. Do you have any requests? I asked with a forced smile. The brothers-in-law's eyes lit up, and they seemed filled with anticipation. Perhaps they misunderstood that the property I inherited was John's, and they probably hoped to get a share of it. Could there be such a convenient story? When the topic of inheritance came up for me, John made sure the prenuptial agreement was in place. Indeed, John made no demands against me as per the agreement.
If you ever have troubles, I'll be there to discuss them. But I promise not to interfere with what's yours,
John had said. I was truly grateful for his kindness and grew to love John even more. On the other hand, the brothers-in-law's despicable actions were intolerable. They chose to prioritize their own desires over family ties. There is no reason to be considerate of such people.
And this place is amazing. Prime location. You can get anything you want. And this mansion is incredible. Seriously, it's almost too big, right? What if I decide to have my younger brother's family live here? If you don't like it, you can sever ties with us.
The two began discussing, wearing vulgar grinning faces. Taking a deep breath, I clearly said, I don't mind. They probably hadn't expected me to answer so quickly. The brothers-in-law looked at me in surprise.
Huh? Really? Are you sure?
I thought, what's with this? They are the ones who suggested moving in. But since they kept insisting, I replied, I'm fine with it. Not just Jason's family, but I invite Dave to live here too. Here is the key. Please take it. I handed them the keys. Upon receiving the keys, they were visibly pleased. Wow, Emily, you're very understanding. This helps a lot. As expected of Emily, so generous. You have such a good heart.
Brimming with joy, they immediately started discussing moving preparations.
Hey, Emily, are you sure about this?
While the brothers-in-law were gleefully celebrating, John seemed a bit anxious, but I replied with a warm smile. John, it's fine. There's nothing to worry about. Just watch. Sometime after the 60th birthday celebration for our in-laws, while relaxing at home with John, our intercom suddenly rang persistently. Wondering what was going on, I went to check and found the pale-faced brothers-in-law standing there.
Hey, the house is in big trouble. Please, tell them to stop, Emily.
Saying this, the brothers-in-law approached me frantically.
The house. When we returned from outside, bulldozers. They're tearing down the house with bulldozers. Even if we tell them to stop because we live here, they won't listen at all.
The brothers-in-law strongly protested, but I calmly replied with a smile. Well, it's only natural. The brothers-in-law looked back at me in shock.
What? What are you talking about?
What I mean is, a high-rise condominium is scheduled to be built there soon. That's why the house needs to be demolished.
Huh? A high-rise condo?
For a moment, the brothers-in-law were speechless and stunned. The upscale restaurant was thriving too, but they either closed or relocated. I had left the utilities like water, electricity, and gas contracted until yesterday, due to the 60th birthday celebration. So, did you face any inconvenience today?
Come to think of it.
They must have realized the disruption in utilities. Their faces turned pale.
Is that true? Emily, this isn't a joke, right?
How can they say it's a joke when bulldozers have already started demolishing the house? It's true. Why would I lie about something like this now? So, you might want to hurry and remove your belongings if possible. To avoid unnecessary fuss and confusion, I straightforwardly presented the situation to the brothers-in-law.
Our stuff?
I've requested the constructors, when demolishing the house, dispose of everything left inside as well. If the bulldozers have started, everything will likely be cleared out soon. If I were you, instead of wasting time here, I'd quickly retrieve any valuables. The brothers-in-law exchanged panicked glances and yelled,
Let's hurry. This is bad. Very bad. This is bad. Hurry up.
The two of them rushed out in a panic. After watching them go, I turned to John. No one told them about this, right?
Our parents and I have been constantly troubled by my elder brothers. Maybe it's good for them to face some hardship for once, but it might have caused trouble for the workers at the site.
I had already informed John and our in-laws that the brothers intended to move into that house, and even gave them the keys. Furthermore, I explained that the house and land were already sold, and the handover date was decided. I provided all these details and left it to our in-laws and John to decide whether to pass on this information to the brothers. Given what transpired, it seems none of them informed the brothers of the truth. Don't worry. I've spoken to the people on site and the buyers to explain the situation. Indeed, I anticipated this outcome and had taken the initiative to explain things to the workers beforehand. I hope this teaches my brothers-in-law some lesson. John and I had this conversation and went to sleep that night. The next morning,
You too. I never imagined it would be this bad.
At the in-laws' house, the mother-in-law sighed heavily in the living room. In front of her, the dejected brothers were sitting down.
They were told it was dangerous because the house was being demolished, so they weren't allowed inside. They even tried to sneak in at night when there was no one. Well, I'm sorry.
It seems they tried to get over the restricted barriers at night to retrieve their valuables. However, the flashlight they used caught the attention of a neighbor, who became suspicious and called the police. Consequently, they were apprehended by the officers.
So, after all that, you can retrieve your belongings from the house, and to top it off, you got involved with the police. We...
Every time the in-laws sighed, the brothers desperately tried to come up with excuses, but no one was willing to listen. To make matters worse, their past misdeeds were brought up, and the brothers were enveloped in an uncomfortable silence.
Hey, both of you. Apologize to Emily properly.
Frustrated with their continuous excuses and lack of remorse, John snapped at the brothers. Suddenly, they retaliated.
What? What are you saying? Isn't all of this our fault? First, she charmed us with her sweetness, and now this. Damn her! She set us up. Exactly. I knew something was off. She just handed over the keys to the house so easily. And selling the house without permission is absurd.
Hearing their irrational outburst, I couldn't help but smirk. Arguing back would just be ridiculous. My dear brothers-in-law, it seems you have some misunderstandings. The land and house were inherited by me, not John. Before our marriage, John even prepared a prenuptial agreement to protect my assets. Even without that agreement, neither of you has any rights to inherit my property.
Agreement? We have no rights? Contract? What's that?
It was clear that neither of the brothers understood the concept of the contract and looked completely bewildered. I had no intention of going into detailed explanations with them. Moreover, I consented to the sale of that land and house, but selling it was my grandparents' wish. Discussions about selling the property had come up numerous times even before I inherited it. However, my grandparents had wished to keep the land and house as it was during their lifetime, turning down offers to sell. Maintaining such vast land and buildings was burdensome, and the taxes were hefty. I had been advised to proceed with the sale once I inherited it. So, I entrusted everything to the real estate agent my grandparents had recommended, as they had said he was trustworthy during their lifetime. Naturally, there should be no room for my brothers-in-law to interfere in the sale of the property. Yet, my aunt yelled and brothers-in-law retorted.
But Emily, we're family, right? We should share, right? Right, Emily. Please, don't be so stingy.
I'm telling them it's none of their business, and they're still going on about it? It reminded me of an incident from the past. My mother passed away right after giving birth to me, so my father raised me on his own. We were very close, almost famously so, in our neighborhood. My father would frequently take me out, camping in the summer and snowboarding in the winter. We had countless cherished memories together. One day, my beloved father suddenly fell ill and quickly passed away. I regretted not having been able to reciprocate his love and care, The emptiness I felt in the room we had shared was overwhelming. John was my pillar of support during those times. He not only helped with funeral arrangements, but was there for me when I'd spend hours sitting, lost in memories. He'd prepare warm soup for me and listen to my stories all night. He patiently supported me through my grief and shared in my sorrow. If I were to marry, it would only be with John. I can't imagine anyone else. Tell me if there's anything you dislike about me, and I'll change. I shouted this during my 5th marriage proposal to him.
I love you, and there's nothing I dislike, but my family is difficult, and I don't want to burden you with them.
I convinced him, and we decided to get married. I have never regretted that decision. After my father passed away, I was determined to fulfill my grandparents' wishes. But in exchange for that, these brothers-in-law of mine, how incredibly selfish and foolish they were. Even after all this, I don't see a hint of remorse from you. I understand now. I thought it would be challenging for you after losing all the household items, but I won't sympathize anymore. I will ensure that I am compensated for the harm you brothers-in-law have caused me.
You're right. You guys remember, don't you? The taxi fare, the costly fish, the emotional damage from Emily being slapped, the cafe expenses, the gas, water, and electricity bills from that vast mansion, and the unnecessary hassle from reporting to the police, and the list goes on.
John listed the damages to protect me. Hearing this, the brothers-in-law looked ashamed and spoke in frail voices.
John, how can you remember all of this in such details? Oh, come on. Isn't this going a bit too far?
Harsher words awaited the tearful brothers-in-law.
That's enough. You've caused nothing but trouble. We're going to cut ties with you as a family. No, this can't be happening. Father, please wait. Please reconsider.
Later, the brothers-in-law were banished from the family home. Their wrongdoings became known to distant relatives, leading them to be isolated. Even their families and girlfriends left them. Now, they reportedly live alone in a tiny apartment.
Oh my, such a splendid place. Is this really okay?
In the meantime, a new tower apartment was completed. We moved in, and the in-laws settled in next door. Yes, of course. One of the conditions of the land sale was that we would be given one floor. On the contrary, I'm truly grateful to Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith for indulging my whims. We incorporated cherished furniture and memorabilia from our grandparents' old house into our new home and took a commemorative photo with the in-laws.
Let's display the old photos alongside the new ones.
In that photo, my loved ones are looking at us and smiling. I decided anew that I would continue to protect these smiles forever.